I understand Atlanta being the favorite. I would install Atlanta being the favorite. The question is it an overreaction? At even money, I would say it's not. But I understand if people want to look at Tampa Bay and the talent that they still have on that roster. I've always made the argument that it's a thin roster, but it is a very talented roster. Is Baker going to repeat what he did a year ago? That's what they're banking on with that 3 for $100 million contract. But also a big move in the futures market as far as Super Bowl. 50 down to 30. When you look at the Falcons in the NFC odds, they are 14-1. They're 6. They're viewed as a playoff team, as a favorite in the division, and one of the top 6 teams in the conference. Guys, the odds are identical to the Rams. Are they as good as the Rams now? I mean, that's what we're being told right now. Funny enough, Aaron, the move with the coaching staff, they bring in Zach Robinson. This is a guy that was working with the Rams, quarterbacks, receivers, passing game coordinator most recently, and you still have those weapons there with Bijan and London, and we'll see how bad Arthur Smith was right away. You have a big upgrade at quarterback, but you still have those weapons around the quarterback. I think it's a strong move. They're looking to win right now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a strong move too. I saw that they were minus favorites to win the division. I wouldn't bet it, but you look at all the weapons that Kirk Cousins has. I mean, this team has some guys, and they are ready to be a playoff team right now. They were just a quarterback away. It obviously didn't work with what they did last year. And so I think Kirk Cousins elevates this team, and maybe they are even better than the Rams. It's hard to say with Sean McVay, such a good head coach, but I would say what I see on paper, they get it all together. Falcons should be better than the Rams.
I would say they're right there. Yeah. To answer that question, they are right there with the Rams. And the difference is they're in the South, not the West. They don't have to play the Niners twice. They don't have to play the Seahawks. They are the leaders of the pack in their division now. So yeah, it makes sense where they're at as those numbers have been adjusted, I think. And I'm interested to see the longevity of Cousins in Atlanta, the bounce back from the injury. That stuff I'm sure we can build towards with training camps in July.
But I also had a just for funsies coach of the year bet. Chris Finch and AJ Hinch.
Oh,
both
Finchy
of those
and
guys.
Finch? That's a good parlay.
Wow,
I
that is.
know.
Not a bad.
I kind of like
That's
it.
What can we call it?
Inch-by-Inch. Inch-by-Inch parlay. There you go. I just built the parlay for you, marketing folks. BetMGM, have that.
There you go.
How
many inches?
Inch.
I
All
was
right.
gonna say the same thing, Joe.
I know. As soon as you laughed, I'm like, I know what she's thinking. I'll just say
That
it.
was a layup. It was a layup. It was right there for both of us.
How many legs are you going to add to this?
Oh, my
inch
God.
parlay?
I mean,
what else rhymes? Grinch? I think just Finch and Hinch should be good enough. But both of those could hit. We've been talking about Finch in the NBA for the T-Wolves, and then AJ Hinch is the one who popped to me. It's a cinch. Yep. There you go. I feel like Dr.
Oh
Seuss
my God. Jesus, you need to put down Redfish, Bluefish for a minute. Move this man.
Yeah, I like Auburn. I wish it was a little bit of a better number. I think they're the second longest odds right now in the SEC, so I'm a little bit hesitant to fully get on board with it. But I do think that this is an Auburn group that, if you sort the data from February 1st, they've been the second best team in the SEC and 7th nationally on Bart Torvik. They're playing at an elite level on offense and on defense. They're finally getting healthy now. The Jalen Williams injury looked really scary, and it isn't, which is a huge win for them. Their net rating with him on the floor is through the roof. And getting Denver Jones going is huge. FIU transfer, he kind of worked his way into the rotation a little bit, and lately he's just been on fire. I think he hit 7 threes in their last game. That's a major game changer for them. The other thing I like about them is that they've started to tweak their rotation a little bit. Bruce Pearl loves to play a lot of depth and has 8-9 guys, but his best lineup he's starting to play that a little bit more, closer to 29 minutes and 30 minutes for his best players getting on the floor instead of closer to 21, 22. And I think that's a big gap and helps their net rating when they're on the floor a little bit more. So I like Auburn. They played Tennessee really, really tough on the road, had a chance to win that game. Dalton Knecht made a ton of tough shots. If they get that matchup again, assuming they can take care of South Carolina in the first round or in the second round, I think that they have a chance to really make a run towards this bracket, because I still don't know if I fully want to trust the Alabamas, the Kentuckys, the Floridas of the world in the bottom half of that bracket.
Yeah, arguably. I do think Pitt is safe in the field, though. I mean, they made the tournament last year as an 11 seed. They beat Iowa State, who was a 6 seed. And you got to say that Pitt is much better this year than they were last year. This team improved in a lot of ways, but that doesn't speak to the rest of the field, though. That's why Pitt is on the bubble. But I think if I'm selecting them, I'm putting Pitt in the field here. Virginia, to me, they are more on the bubble. This offense is in disarray. I mean, abysmal in all retrospects. Pitt being the 4 seed here is huge because they did beat North Carolina. Now, Tar Heels were down a starter or two in that game. I think 2 starters to be exact. So that kind of gave Pitt an advantage. But I did go to the Pitt home game against North Carolina. North Carolina banged a 3 to go up right at halftime. Second half, Pitt was in it the entire game until about the 5-minute mark. North Carolina pulled away. And I believe Pitt went 2 of 18 from 3 in that home game. So certainly Pitt could knock off North Carolina. I think they should beat Wake Forest. Wake Forest can't beat anybody outside at home. They should win their first round game, but not much faith in that team going far. So the best bets, why Pitt has value, I still think North Carolina could beat them. Clemson has value. I think they beat Virginia. And then you look at the third team, the Duke Blue Devils. Their path, their side of the bracket is cake. I don't see a situation where they lose. We're talking about possibly playing Syracuse here. Possibly getting, an NC State. These teams do not scare Duke at all. So Duke at plus 180, plus 190 is definitely the best bet in the tournament, I think. And as I spoke on, if they get North Carolina, they call it the Duke Invitational. That's what the haters call it. And Duke might be favored, so they would be the team to play there. I like the Blue Devils.
We won the championship in 2002. We all looked back and said the best thing that happened was we lost Saturday at noon to NC State. Herb Sendecken and Julius High. NC State, really good team. They beat us in the semis. We got to go home. We got to regroup. We got to rest an extra day and a half. We also got to yell at the players and tell them they're not as good as they think they are, which helps. Sometimes you got to get the players' attention. So that's why I like Maryland. I think Kevin Willard's got their attention now. They kind of just didn't do what they were supposed to this year, but they were close in a lot of games and didn't play at Penn State. He's now telling them, I like Maryland's my little sleeper to do some work in the Big Ten, because they've been in every game this year. And other than Purdue, it's wide open. I think it's a great question. Curley still wants to cut down the nets because of New York and the way the Big East tournament's so important to UConn. But you don't want to burn it out. If you lose in the semis, it's not the end of the world because, as you said, the Tennessees. I will tell you this, coaching-wise, I felt like 1 through 3 you had a really good chance to, really advance. 4 and 5 got tricky because that second game is the 4-5 game. That's not an easy game, that's just where it's at. But if 1 through 3, you're in really good shape. You don't want to slip and be a 4 or a 5. If you're those guys, and we all know that 6 through 11, 6 through, that's a treacherous place to play. It's just the history of the tournament has said that. That being said, if I'm 1 and 2 seed, and I lose a game in the tournament, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, it could be a wake-up call. Tennessee, do they want to win it? They haven't cut down the nets down there in the SEC in a while, stuff like that. But let's face it, Purdue won the Iowa won the Big Ten 2 years ago and got beat by Richmond in the first year. You know what the Iowa fans were talking about? Why the hell did we lose to Richmond in the first round? So I'm going to go with I will put next week much more important. If you have a little rest because you got knocked out a day early, use it to your advantage.